If you are a first responder, I'm going to share with you today the top 3 signs of reaching critical burnout in hopes to help you recognize these and do something about them before it's too late. These were the top 3 signs that I personally walked through as a police officer of 25 years. I reached a critical state. I was going through so much burnout and I was totally unaware of it. And these 3 warning signs today I'm going to share with you in hopes to help you out so that you don't reach that critical phase yourself. Number one, if you are coming home from work and you're totally isolating, you're numbing out, you're checking out, and you're not able to engage your friends, your family, or in any type of other activities such as hobbies, you need to pay close attention. Now, every first responder is going to hit some sort of burnout throughout their career. And I talk to many people in regular corporate jobs that also reach burnout.
You're right about that.
You get to a point where, the newness of the job wears off. It's not as exciting as it once was, and things happen over time. But if you are finding yourself coming home and isolating for long, long periods of time and replacing engaging activities with alcohol, maybe scrolling, maybe checking out Netflix for the entire night, or some sort of a gambling addiction, anything or any habit that you are using as a substitute for re-engaging your friends, your family, or social situations, and you're just checked out. You need to be very, very careful. It's perfectly fine to come home and downregulate. Tell the family that you need 5, 10, 15 minutes or whatever the case may be to shut it off, but then you need to find something to do to re-engage. When I would come home from work, I would change out of my uniform. I would find a couple of quick chores to do. And then once I slipped into something comfortable, it was game over. I totally checked out. I didn't want to leave the house. I certainly didn't want to go back out into society. And I found ways to just kind of numb out by not drinking or having any type of addictive personality, but I was just done. I was done for the day. And I thought that that was a good way. And I justified it by saying, you know what, I just had a long day. I don't want to deal with people anymore. And that pattern continued over a lengthy, lengthy period of time.
Keep going.
Number 2 sign of burnout that you need to be really, really cautious of is complete disdain and hatred for your job and for the people in the job or the leadership and administration. Now, again, just like number 1, there are going to be moments, there are going to be times when you need to come home or go out with your buddies and get things off your chest, right? That's very, very common, very typical. But what ends up happening? We end up hanging out with the people that hate the job just as much as we do. We're now allowing the politics of the agency, we're allowing expectations and leadership to really just drive us down a hole. We're not taking any accountability for our own actions because the expectations we have for everybody else are thrown out the window long ago. And so we really find ourselves having a lot of disdain for the job. We hate going to work now. We can't stand the people we were with. We can't stand the leadership.
Now you're speaking my language.
And if you are getting to this critical point, you need to really pause for a moment and reevaluate what you're doing. One thing that I really learned studying a lot of psychology classes and doing some things when I was off work is something that resonated with me. And I want you to look this up or Google it, but this really helped me to understand how to manage things that I did not have control of. And it's called the locus of control. And in psychology, you have essentially 3 circles. You have a small circle, which is the things that you can control. And you notice how very small that is. And then a circle outside of that are things and people that you can influence. And then the biggest one outside of all of that is the situations and things you cannot control. And that's the biggest factor in our lives. And I really got stuck as a police officer in hearing people tell me that I can only control myself. I can only control and do what I can, and I have to leave everything else up to the prosecuting attorney's office or leadership or a coworker. And I could never really settle with that answer because to me, that was the lazy way of not having anybody else accountable for what they're doing. So I was looking and operating into this great big window of things I had absolutely no control over, and it was driving me mad. So when I learned the locus of control, I had to really settle into the fact that there are only so many things that I am in control of, which is myself and my own emotions. Now, pay attention to this second circle, which is the things and situations in which you can influence. And what they found was that when people focused on who they can influence around them and the situations that they can influence, those were the people that were actually the most satisfied in their jobs, in their personal lives, and in their relationships. Who can you influence? So get rid of what you can control and who you can control in that great big outside sphere, politics, social media, the other people at your agency, and focus on what and who you can influence. Your friends, other coworkers that are close to you, your family, your children, etc. So look into the locus of control. And if you're finding yourself having a ton of fight towards the career, towards your job, back up, have some self awareness, and take action on it. And the third thing I want you to be very cautious of or pay attention to is that everything outside of work becomes overwhelming and almost exasperating. Every decision that you have to make, every little task that needs to be done, not only at work, but at home, just seems like it's overwhelming. You get to a point where, you don't I was to a point where I didn't even want to answer the phone. I didn't want to look in the mailbox because it's just bills and bad news and just everything gets blown up because when we stay in that heightened state, our brain is always focused on the emergency at hand. We're used to working in chaos, thriving in chaos. And when we are outside of that chaos and settled in, every other little thing becomes overwhelming. And when everything is overwhelming like that, it affects our attitude. And then we end up blowing up at the smallest little things. So if you're finding yourself coming home, or maybe you're even at work, and all of these decisions seem to be overwhelming, all of them seem to be exacerbated, and every little thing is causing you to blow up in anger, I need you to have self awareness, our number one tool, and to really pay attention to how you're acting, how you're reacting, and self talk yourself down a little bit to think like there's always going to be something. There's always going to be decisions that need to be made. There's always going to be things that need to be done. Don't let those small decisions overwhelm you and end up taking it out on other people.
Are you sure about that?
So, going back, the top three things for me were the numbing out and isolation. I began to hate my job. I began to hate going to work and was really upset at all of the situations that I could not control. And then when I would come home, making decisions or doing something or being asked to do something was extremely overwhelming. I blew everything out of proportion because I couldn't get my brain and mind to shut down from working in chaos all day long. Now, there are other or several other signs of burnout that we can talk about in other videos. But for me personally, as a police officer working the streets, then working in investigations and doing all these other things, these were my top three signs of burnout that I wished I had this information for somebody to give to me so that I could pay attention and do some changing along the way before I ended up walking off the job for several months. So if this resonates with you, you need to do some inner work. You need to do some reflecting and start putting some systems into place on how you can change this behavior and how you can change this attitude. If this resonates with you, I would greatly appreciate if you hit that subscribe button down below, give this video a like, and we'll continue pumping out the videos so that you can be mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically functioning at a high level, both on duty and off duty. Until the next one, that's it for now.